Are you a victim of a stolen childhood? Have you suffered any consequences of a stolen childhood? Are you a perpetrator of a stolen childhood? Have you caused any child to lose the experiences that they would otherwise have as a child when they're growing up? Dear listeners, welcome to another episode of J is Mike, a podcast that brings you insights and inspirations for personal development, a stronger relationship, and a better society. I'm your host, John Ewu, and today we're delving into a topic, a stolen childhood. There are lots of children out here who have been silenced, who cannot speak, who are suffering from all sorts of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. A lot of children who are suffering from personality issues. A lot of children who cannot complete education, all because their childhood was stolen from them. A lot of children who today make the statistics of crowded prisons. A lot of children who today are causing crimes in the streets. A lot of children who today have been relegated to substance abuse, all because somebody stole their childhood from them. That is the relevance of this particular episode, and we're going to dive into some of the key discussions concerning a stolen childhood. And for all of you friends who have managed to make their way to the top and navigated your way through a stolen childhood story, I want to say kudos to you. Yes, because there are so many of you out here suffering from a stolen childhood, but have managed to navigate your way and have not accepted society to make you into a statistics. There are lots of you who have paved your way through, and today you are making changes in the places where you are. Kudos to you, and I applaud you for doing the best that you can. But there are so many children whose childhood had been stolen away from them for reasons that have nothing to do with them, but their childhood was taken away from them and they are rendered helpless in society today. And if you're a victim and you feel touched by what we're discussing here, holler us. And of course, this is linked to the episodes that we have been discussing in the past, building a stronger relationship. And so the decisions you make as a parent, the decision you make as a partner in that relationship that has gotten children, definitely will have serious consequences on the children. And some of those consequences can rob those children of their normal childhood upbringing. And so today, we're talking about a stolen childhood. Sit back, because the mic is bringing it to you hot. First of all, before we delve into the crux of this matter of a stolen childhood, what is this all about? What is the stolen childhood thing all about? If you're a child who have been deprived from the carefree childhood moments that you should have, if you're a child who have been deprived of any opportunity to grow normally, I want to tell you that you are a victim of a stolen childhood. If anything has deprived you from growing as a normal child, you are a victim. And this can be because your parents led you to that. This can be because of circumstances in the environment where you grew. This can be because of calamities like war, conflict. They can rob you of your childhood. Children whose parents, maybe one parent is not in their lives, have been robbed of that experience of having both parents in your life. That is what we're talking about today, a stolen childhood. What are some of the common factors that lead to a stolen childhood? One of it is abuse. If you're growing up as a kid and you suffer any abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse by either a parent or somebody in the society who abused you growing up as a child, that abuse takes away from your normal upbringing as a child. You begin to suffer trauma, and this can have long-lasting consequences in your life. Another common factor of a stolen childhood is neglect. When you missed out on basic support, basic attention as a child, you miss out on your parents taking care of you, looking after your basic needs as a child. You are suffering from a stolen childhood, because every child deserves that attention, that tender, loving care from both parents. And so no child deserves to be raised by one parent. I know there are circumstances of calamity that can lead to that. But if it is a decision of both parents to make a child suffer from experiencing only one parent in their life, you have robbed that child of their childhood. You have stolen the childhood from that child. And so, if you take away that basic care from a baby, you take away that basic care from your child, that attention that they need, it can lead to very lasting emotional, psychological, and even social issues in the long run. Poverty, we all know, poverty has really stolen childhood from so many children. If a child is raised in an impoverished environment, first of all, they begin to lack very basic care, health care, educational care. Some of them cannot even pay their school fees. The children cannot even have a 3-square meal. These children are being forced to start taking responsibility of the other siblings at a very tender age. These children start taking responsibility of their own needs. This is a problem. This is a factor that can lead to stolen childhood, poverty. It deprives children from experiencing childhood in a normal way. It deprives them from that environment where they can thrive and have other opportunities for them to be able to build their lives on. Of course, conflict and war, crisis all over. And to some of the leaders who really perpetrate war, conflict, you rob children of their normal child upbringing. You steal their childhood away from them by creating all these skirmishes. You create an environment where the children will lose either both parents or they lose one parent. You create an environment where the child cannot go to school. You create an environment where health care becomes impossible to children. You create an environment where a child cannot even play freely. You have stolen that childhood from that particular child. You have other issues like child labor, early marriage. There are parts in the world where child labor has become really the order of the day. You find children in their 5-year-old, their 6-year-old, and the kind of things that they are being forced to do. And child labor is not just about those companies out there that are employing children, underage children, to do all sorts of work like we hear around the world. We're not talking about just about that. We're talking about child labor even in the family. There are some families that will make a child bear the responsibility of providing for that family at a very tender age. That is also considered child labor. You make a child bear responsibilities at an age when they are supposed to be playing around and enjoying their childhood like any normal child. You are stealing that childhood away from that kid. You're taking away what that child is supposed to otherwise experience as a normal child. It is a stolen childhood. Early marriages. There are families where children are getting married at a very tender age, ages of 9. We're talking about 9 years old. There are even cultures where children are married as they are born. This is not okay. You are stealing the childhood from your kid. Before children grow, they already know this is the man who is my husband. And you see them going into marriage at a very early age. This is not okay. You are stealing the childhood from those children. And if there are cultures, if there are places where those practices are still being perpetrated today, you are taking away from that society. You are taking away from a child who would otherwise become something and maybe transform the society. Stolen childhood. Substance abuse. If a child is growing up in a home where either parent is abusing substances, is addicted to certain substances, to drug abuse, that child has no other way of coming out of this easily. And this is of no fault of theirs. And I tell you, parent, whenever you bring forth another human being, you must get your act right. There is no excuse of, addiction is such a big thing. And no. You brought up somebody. You bring in somebody into the world. You need to get your act straight. No excuse about your addiction. No excuse about your drugs, about your substance intake. If you cannot do them away from your kid, which of course is a very bad thing for you to even get to that point. You expose your children to drug abuse. You expose your children to alcohol abuse. You are taking away from them what is very vital. And this is what we call a stolen childhood. You have parents today. A young man impregnates a lady and they want to run away. You call them deadbeat fathers. You impregnate a lady and you want to run away from the responsibility of taking care of that child. I'm not saying that you get married. By the way, that's another topic. But irresponsible sexual habits. These are all issues that come up. These are consequences of stolen childhood. You have a baby with somebody and you want to run away from that responsibility. You leave the child or the children to live with only one parent. You have robbed that child of the opportunity to experience care and love in a home where both parents are present in their lives. And so if you lack parental care, if you lacked parental care growing up as a kid, if you lacked one parent in your life growing up as a kid, I can assure you, you have gone through some form of a stolen childhood. And now, what are some of the consequences of a stolen childhood? You want to wonder why there is a lot of inner city crime? You want to wonder why our prisons are all crowded? You want to wonder why we have conflicts today everywhere and even leading to large-scale wars? Part of it is stolen childhood. So let's look at some of the consequences. The very first consequence of a stolen childhood is the impact on the emotional and psychological well-being of that child. You find children suffering from anxiety. You find them suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. You find children suffering from personality disorder, all because their childhood was stolen from them. You find children suffering from building better relationships out there because they are afraid. They are afraid of their vulnerabilities. They cannot trust people. All because their childhood was stolen from them. Emotional and psychological impact of a stolen childhood. You begin to wonder, why is this person behaving in this kind of way in society? And we are so quick to judge these children. We're so quick to judge them without understanding the perspective where they're coming from, without understanding that we, the parents, without understanding that we have taken away something very vital from these children. And so we wonder, how are they not able to maintain relationship? How are they not able to trust people? How are they not able to stay calm? How are they not able to find their own identity? All these because childhood was stolen from these kids. They are not able to find the kind of personality that they have. And if you cannot understand your personality, it will be very difficult for you to build a better and a strong relationship in the society. You find children suffering from low self-esteem in the society. Children who cannot even trust people with decisions. Children who cannot trust advice from their elders, because they had nothing to rely on. They didn't see any role models when they were growing up. They didn't see anybody who instilled trust in them. They didn't see anybody who instilled self-discipline in them. And we see all these happening today. Another consequence is behavioral. How these children behave in society. Children whose childhood was stolen away from them, their behavioral pattern in society is completely different. They are very prone to drug abuse. They are very prone to substance abuse. Their anger management is at the lowest level. They have issues relating with people in society, all because somebody made a decision that took away their childhood. And now we want to even blame the children first without looking at what happened. Instead of asking the why, we want to go straight into blaming the children. The system wants to put them to jail. The system wants to make them look the worst in the society. But if only we can go back to the root cause of why this behavior, why is this happening? And then we can begin to see that this child was taken a very precious gift away from them at a very young age. You find children beginning to live a life of self-harm. Some of them really get to a point where they start piercing themselves. Children start living all kinds of life, and you're wondering, what is going on with my kid? No. You stole their childhood. And this is not only with parents who are raising kids as a single parent. No. Even in families where parents are together, you still find children whose childhood had been stolen away from them. You find children living a loner life. They want to live with themselves in their rooms. Children who want to pierce themselves. Children who are very arrogant. They don't know how to relate because somewhere along the line, the parents could not be able to give that child that environment which will help the child explore how to live freely as a baby, as a child at some stages of their development. Their childhood was stolen from them. Anger management. They cannot manage their anger. They start engaging in very risky sexual practices, very risky sexual activities. And then, before you know it, there is no future for them. Another impact is the cognitive. Children whose childhood had been stolen away from them find it very difficult to concentrate even in their educational activities. You find it very difficult to make decisions. You find it very difficult to relate with people in society as a normal person. All because you missed out on your childhood. Somebody took away something from you which is very vital. You cannot relate well because nobody showed you how to. You cannot approach issues well because you didn't have a role model. Nobody was there to help you, to make you understand this is how it goes in life. And guess what? The cycle only continues because of somebody who stole a childhood of one child. Children grow in disrupted learning environment. Children grow in stress and traumatic learning environment. They are exposed to trauma and stress at a very early stage in their life. Their childhood has been stolen from them. And so it leads to all these cognitive behaviors. They are not able to relate well. They are not able to trust systems. They are not able to trust institutions. And the very institutions that they cannot trust takes them to jail. And then we have crowded prisons, and you're asking yourselves, why? This is because a childhood had been stolen from somebody at a very early age for no reason of their own. We must be able to guard our kids. We must be able to provide an environment that is conducive for them to grow, for them to nurture all that they require in life. We must be able to provide for them opportunities to live as kids, to live as children, opportunities that will help them develop character in the future. And in doing so, we build a better society. social and interpersonal challenges. We see children nowadays, it's very difficult for them to build relationships, both romantic and platonic relationships. They find it very difficult to build relationships, to sustain these relationships, because they had no role model that trained them on how trust is handled in a relationship. They had nobody who trained them. They had nobody to follow and be mentored about issues of trusting each other. We find children who are unable to build and maintain relationships, whether they are romantic relationships or whether they are platonic relationships, because trust has been eroded in their upbringing. They can no longer trust people. They can no longer trust in humans. They have attachment issues. And because they can no longer build and maintain strong relationships, whether they are romantic or platonic, they cannot keep a strong and healthy marriage. They cannot train their own children because they have nothing to hand over to them. They cannot trust their partners. They cannot trust their friends. They cannot trust their children. They cannot trust the system. They cannot trust our institutions because their childhood was stolen. It may look like it's a trivial aspect, but it happens every single day and it goes unnoticed. And when we see the repercussions, when we see the consequences manifest in society, we are so quick to blame the victim. But this is an issue that we need to look into. This is an issue that should not go unnoticed because that is the cause. We talk about the cause and effect. We are very quick to try and handle the effect without touching the cause. And if we do not touch on the cause, there is no way we eliminate the issue. There is no way we eliminate the problem. Stolen childhood is indeed a very fundamental cause for societal disintegration. We must build stronger foundations for our children. We must give them the opportunity to live as children. Interpersonal relationship. If the child did not learn from any parent, they didn't learn from a well-grown family how to treat other people, they are just going to come up with a cycle of unhealthy relationship. They become very abusive. When they get into a relationship, they become very controlling or they become so dependent. We do not want to perpetrate the cycle of abuse by neglecting what our children need when they are growing up. They need to be raised as children. They need an opportunity to live like children. Stolen childhood hinders children from future opportunities. These children are not able to learn in the same way and attain their degrees. They're not able, some of them are not able to finish their education, just like normal other children. Some of them are not able to attain their degrees. They drop out of school. Some of them are not able to hold down jobs because they lack interpersonal relationship. Some of them are not even able to get opportunities at invention because they lack the necessary skill set and mindset for them to pursue that. They cannot even pursue their long-term goals. They dream to be doctors, they dream to be pilots, they dream to be lawyers. These are all dreams we all have when we're growing up as kids. But unfortunately, we cannot sustain them because our childhood was stolen from us. Every child deserves an opportunity to live as a child. Every child deserves an opportunity to grow up in an environment that offers them opportunities for them to develop normally. A child who is a victim of a stolen childhood is more likely to be involved in criminal issues. Either they are involved in it as offenders or as victims. Because when their behavioral pattern is distorted, they find themselves in places that they are not supposed to be. They find themselves amongst people that they are not supposed to be relating with. And either they become victims of violence in the streets, or they become perpetrators of violence. They become offenders. And guess what? It lands them in a place where they are not supposed to be. It lands them in jail. It lands them in overcrowded prisons. And then the cycle continues. And you tell me you don't know the reason why there is a lot of crimes in the cities? You tell me you don't know the reason why there is a lot of conflict within our society? You tell me you don't know the reason why violence is the order of the day in our society? You tell me the reasons why even escalated wars. Check the backgrounds of leaders who are very war inclined. Check their backgrounds, check their upbringings. But if only we can fix this issue of stolen childhood, we can start solving the problems that belie our society. And so, dear listeners, I speak to you today. I suffered from a separation of my parents. I did experience separation of my parents. And that in itself can put you in a very compromising situation. Thank God I had the support that I needed. I had friends, I had other people who were there for that period. And I want to applaud all of you who have ever suffered from stolen childhood for trying your very best to be what you are today. Because I can tell you from experience, I suffered it for a period of 8 good years. And sometimes you're born with your own personal abilities to cope with situations. You are born with your own personal abilities to handle situations differently. But some people are not. Some people still need that dependency. The training that some of us got when we were very little helped us within the time when we suffered that childhood vacuum. I suffered it for 8 years. Do not take away the childhood, the normal upbringing from any child. Their consequences are profound and they are long-lasting in the society. And if you're listening to this episode and you feel touched by it, drop us a comment. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you think about stolen childhood. Are you a victim? Do you know someone who is a victim? Do you see a consequence around you? Why not drop us a comment and let's get this conversation going. I want to wish you a very happy new year, a very blessed new year 2024. And I hope that the good Lord will keep us all together and focused to our goal as we struggle to build a better society. If you have not already subscribed to J is Mike, I entreat you, just subscribe, like our channel, share the channel, chat with us in the comment section. And until next time, I'm your host, John Ewu.